weren't sure if you could hear
conference
us.
will now be recorded.
Can you
All
see
right.
me?
Yes.
We can. Oh, there you are.
Thank you. All right, so we're getting started a little bit later today. It's 6:07 PM on April 24th. The Monterey Select Board is calling to order. Susan and myself are in town hall. Unfortunately, Frank has a family emergency, and so he's out of town and unable to join us, just so that everybody knows. The first item of business is Dennis. Thank you for joining us, Dennis. And we're talking about the One Stop for Growth Massachusetts grant program. So there's an expression of interest that's due in about a week, and then an application is due in June.
Correct.
Yeah.
June 5th. And the process is basically, if you get past the expression of interest, that means it's a relatively competitive application. And so they put you into the full and complete application program or part of that program. And that's due on June 5th. And the expression of interest, of course, is due on April 30th, as indicated on that page. The difference between 2024 and previous years of that program, as it relates to the so-called MassWorks infrastructure program, one of the 12 programs, grant programs, that have been codified into one single portal to make it more efficient for communities, municipalities, and cities to seek funding. That was without a match. It's now a 25% match. But that 25% match is over a 3 fiscal year period. Now, compared to the Culvert MVP program, which has a 10% match, but that's over a 2 fiscal year period. So theoretically, it appears that even though it's a greater match of 15% greater than the MVP program, you have 3 years to pay it off.
Could MassWorks be matched against?
More than
MVP?
likely, the state does not like to have another state program pay for the match.
Mhm.
If it were a federal program, for example, yes, that would be like we're doing on Kupai Road for the 319 grant.
Yeah.
There's match back and forth. But not with this particular program. So it's a question of, does the town wish to submit the expression of interest while there's a pause in the culvert project to see if we're eligible and if we're competitive? In the meantime, the third leg of this three-legged stool is the fact that at the state legislature, in the Ways and Means Committee, there is an effort, a bill from State Senator Cream to increase the amount of funding available to communities through the MVP program. So both of these things are happening at the same time. And since it's at the Ways and Means part of the process, it's an indication that there is favor and acceptability. It's a question of how much acceptability will it be? Will it be a conference bill? And what will be the negotiations for and against the size of the funding? The whole idea, besides related to that, is they want to set up a trust. They call it MVP plus trust. And that will be a revolving fund that is, in perpetuity essentially, but the intent is to add more funding, more than the 3 million perhaps that is currently available for a project under MVP.
So are you recommending or suggesting applying for the MassWorks program for the culvert in the center of town? or for a different project?
I'm suggesting to the select board to consider the Mass Works and to see if we are eligible to compete for a full application,
Even though it's,
even though it's.
the 25%'s high, even if it's split over, so you're thinking about it year by year, I'm thinking of it as the total amount.
And
that
it
we have to
depends
pay.
on which amount of funding, from which source you get those funds, whether it's chapter 90 or some other source that we have available in the town.
I know, but that's a lot.
So
of
the 25% of the current estimated cost, which would only go up, is about 950,000.
That's correct. So you're looking.
So that's a lot more than the 10%, which was under 400,000. And I don't think that the concern with paying for the culvert is having the money available all at once, because I've always kind of assumed that we would borrow the money.
Sure.
So that would already naturally spread it out over 5 or 10 years, even if we all need the money in 1 year or 2 years. That being said, it seems, I think it's more the amount of money.
Yeah.
For a culvert that we're not aware of any structural problems with. And the only concern is reasonably far into the future, extreme flooding event. Beyond that, which we've seen since the culvert was constructed in the 70s, I'm sure. So, or that current one. So, one of the reasons I think I was hesitant to sign on to the MVP Phase 3 application this year was, the close to $400,000, whether it's spread out, no matter how it's budgeted. It also, makes me wonder, are there other Mass Works programs? I can't think of any off the top of my head. I felt like we were very fortunate to get the funding for Beartown Mountain Road, and I felt like that was even kind of a stretch. It was hard to prove it, but we had that it connects to Great Barrington and Lee,
Sure.
technically. So, now that we're responsible for a 25% match from Mass Works, it makes me even more hesitant to put in an application for New Marlboro Road or some other road like that, because we're gonna now be responsible for a large
Bigger
portion of it. Whereas previously, I think we essentially just applied to Mass Works every year, in part because it was a fully funded program.
No downside.
Exactly.
When
Are
did
all-
they announce the 25% part?
Approximately 300, if you broke it over 3 fiscal years, about $350,000 to $60,000.
No,
a year.
when did they announce that it was 25%?
This year,
Okay,
as part of the
part of the
overall
changes, overall changes.
one-stop
Yeah,
development
okay.
program.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think
Yeah.
it's hard to justify the close to $1 million for the MVP. I'm kind of hoping that between now and next year, either the MVP funding will change. Sorry, the MVP funding, we were gonna be responsible for the 8.
For 10%,
800
right,
bucks.
and it's the
Well,
max.
no, because they cap out at 3 million.
Oh, right,
So we were gonna be responsible for the 800,000+.
so
So
it's kind of
This
almost
is
the
somewhat
same.
similar. The spreading out over 3 years, I don't think helps a whole lot in our case, because
Sure.
the way that I envision it after talking with Courtney and talking through it, is that we'll ask the town to borrow, and we'll borrow the full amount, because we don't wanna be borrowing 300 this year and then come back for another 400 next year. What if it doesn't pass that year, the next year? Sure. It's a lot to think about.
It is, but I'm with you, like, the 25% match, I don't see that in the end it's gonna matter that it's spread over 3 years. I think it's just too big a chunk.
And it kinda makes me, before you mentioned the 25%, I was thinking, what might be eligible for Mass Works, but it's kind of hard to, it's that much less inviting right? Like, would we have done the Beartown Mountain Road project if we were responsible for 25%? It's possible. I don't know, I can't go back in time, but I think part of the reason we as a board signed off on the application and with going through with the project was just the town was responsible for zero. So if the state's gonna come in and redo a gravel road that there's a number of houses at the end of, but it's not really a through road, really, in general, it's not, you know, it's a different story between the state will come in and do it and the town's responsible for zero, or the town's responsible for 250,000.
Sure.
So you know, it's, this grant stuff, it's hard to kind of keep track of where everything's at. I would lean against going for a Mass Works for the culvert at this time, just because that's still a steep, I mean, we're talking almost $1 million.
Sure.
And basically, we're hoping they're gonna change the cap, so that, I mean, that's what I understood when we were talking to
Yeah.
Courtney, right? That the hope was the cap for MVP would change so that with the 10%, it would still be a lower number, because if they raise the cap to say 3.5 million and it's a $4 million project, or 3.7 million and it's a $4 million project, right? Like,
Yeah.
the 10% becomes much more doable.
I think if the cap had been 4 million this year, and we were talking a matter of less than $400,000.
Sure. Yeah.
We might be in a different place, but because of that $3 million cap, all of a sudden we're responsible for
Almost $1 million.
more than double
It's gonna be.
our 10%.
And that's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Which, and it just makes it hard to swallow, especially knowing that, as far as we're concerned, there's no structural integrity concerns with the culvert at the moment.
May I suggest something in the interim?
Mhm.
That since this bill is working its way through the state legislature, that a letter of support for that legislation be prepared and forwarded to the sponsor.
Actually, a really good idea.
Yeah.
There's no downside to it.
Yeah, I mean, we can, maybe it's worth, I don't know if it's worth personalizing it, but maybe it's worth mentioning that, you know, we have a project that we've now put 6 years into, 7 years?
Since 2017.
Yeah, and we're always kind of moving full steam ahead, but that $3 million cap is really tough for a town like Monterey to justify. And with all this effort that we have into this climate resiliency effort, we hope that we could see it through.
Yeah.
And I think that hopefully we will, but we need a little bit of give and take from the state.
And from what I've seen, my observation is that there are organizations that are supporting this. It's a group of communities essentially working together through the eastern part of the state, but I see very little in the western part of the state. So I think it would be positive for Monterey to get on the record as a small community in Western Mass that's very interested in this program, this potential increase in the MVP program.
Well, not only that we're interested in it, but it would make a big difference in our ability to achieve success and finalize this project and bring it to fruition. Because it's a lot of money.
Sure.
For a small community. I mean, I suppose it's a lot of money for any community, but there's a big difference between a community of 100,000 ponying up that money and a community of 1,000.
Sure. So if select board chooses, I could work with town administrator to prepare that letter.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
And
that
it'd be
sounds
great.
good.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us, always keeping an eye out on the grants
Okay,
that are available.
thank you.
Are you still having meetings with Courtney about the culvert? Cause I know we're still wrapping up phase 2.
I don't think, as far as I know, I don't think we are.
We had one recently, we just had one a couple weeks
Yes,
ago, right? Yeah,
last month, I think. it was.
that was it, yeah.
Because I think that there should be another meeting at some point, because I know that we're not done with phase 2. And I think basically let's take the next year to plan a potential application for next spring for phase 3.
Sure.
And how would we fund that? Um,
And if any new opportunities come up, I'd be glad to bring them before the select board for consideration.
Thank you.
That would be great.
All right. Thank you, Dennis.
Okay.
Thanks, Dennis.
The next order of business is the Lake Garfield drawdown order of conditions. So, Michael Germain reached out to me from the Lake Garfield working group and said that the town should request an extension on the order of conditions of the drawdown, which this is an old order of conditions. I forget the exact, was it 2006, 2007?
Quite.
And
Well, you have a face on you, Well, it makes me nervous.
No, no, not at all.
Okay, good.
there's a bit of a history.
Somewhere in here, yeah. I'm just trying-
There's a lot of history. Kim can tell you there's history going, if you wanna go all the way back to look at the documents from 1974, but that was 50 years ago. And even everything that's happened in the last 20 years or 22 years with climate change, there's been a lot of changes. And Kim, do you want to give a little recap? Is she listening? Can she
Sure.
hear
She
me?
is, she just.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
So right now, currently, there's an extension that expires, August of 24. I have some feedback going on. Maybe I'll turn the.
Sorry about that, but I can,
Is that better? Yes, it's better on my, can you hear me? Okay, so there's an extension currently now that was, the last extension was only for a year, and that expires in August of 24. The Garfield Group got an order of conditions, a bundled order of conditions back in July of 23. Forgive me if I don't have the exact dates. And that included the herbicide, not herbicide, the DASH, the diver assisted weed pulling, and mechanical harvesting, and the drawdown. However, when Natural Heritage did their review, they gave no approval on the drawdown portion of that bundled NOI. So we did something really quick, which was amend that order of conditions, pull the drawdown portion out of it. And then we extended that original order, which I think was 0300, and so that there could be a drawdown for last winter. So what we asked them to do when we pulled that drawdown portion out of the order, pretty much contingent on getting that drawdown, is to come back with a new notice of intent as for the drawdown, complying with the new performance standards for lake drawdowns and Natural Heritage's concern about doing anything more than a 2-foot drawdown. Are you still hearing me?
Yeah.
yeah, we can hear you. I
Okay.
was muting us so that you didn't get feedback.
Oh, okay. So that's what's happening right now is now, instead of the group coming back with the notice of intent that we requested, they would like to do an extension, another extension, which is unusual for, well, it's a commission on whether they want to do an extension or not. However, generally you don't approve an extension if something has changed in the original order, which now is basically outdated. It's not the performance standards or the regulations for lake drawdowns. the current regulations now.
Do we know from Mike or anybody else why they just wanna do the extension without modifying anything?
I've been in the loop on it, various emails throughout the year, so it's been very hard to keep track of. This has been a ongoing topic, and frankly, there's a lot of back and forth between lake scientists and, you know, different officials and director of operations and Lake Garfield working group. And it's a little bit hard to keep track of, especially when we haven't really been asked to do much
Right.
on it before. I know one of the reasons that the director of operations has spoken in favor of kind of the drawdown as it's been done is they draw it down in October, I believe, and then he goes and he shuts it up sometime in the late winter, early spring. And it's just, that's what he does, and he doesn't want to start managing it more than that. And also, some people have said that, and I'm not saying that this is true or not, I'm just saying it's been said, that there's an issue of flood control. And so then there's the issue of, are we preventing floods? And then there's the issue of, what are we doing, either positive or negative, for the plants and animals in the lake? So there's kind of all that floating around along with state regulations, which, as I understand it, are less and less favorable to lake drawdowns over the years.
Certainly less favorable to a large drawdown, like 6 feet.
Yeah.
I thought they had been doing 3 feet and now they can only do 2 feet.
That's what it should be.
We've been
No,
doing
right,
6.
Right, are we
and we've been
six?
doing
doing 6?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I thought it was 3 that they'd been doing.
If you go back in these documents, I mean, this goes back to
It goes back far.
74 at least, right?
50 years ago.
And Dean Amadon said that the town of the Monterey, as the owner of the dam, has the authority to raise or lower the lake level. That's at least what he said.
Is it,
Of course, that was prior to when was the Wetland Protection Act actually put in place, Kim?
probably later,
After 1974.
maybe 78.
So it's,
The current regulations were effective in 2014.
Oh, the current regs.
okay, there you go.
I don't know anything about the equipment that allows for the drawdown and the lowering of the lake. Does anybody know how difficult changing from the current drawdown would be given the current equipment? In other words, would all of the equipment have to change to allow it to not be drawn down as far? I just plain don't know. You don't think so?
I don't know either.
I have not seen the schematics of the dam and how it
Are you gonna
operates.
feedback?
I have a lot of feedback. I can deal with it.
Alright,
I always talk to myself anyway. So I don't really know the schematics of how the dam operates, but when I spoke with fisheries, they were kind of taken back that there's no way of controlling the flow per cubic square foot through that dam. But I understand at my last meeting with the Garfield group is that there is a cranking system. So I'm unclear. I'm getting two different methods from different people on how that dam actually works. So I'm not quite sure if it's because they just want to open up the dam and they want to leave and they don't want to monitor it. Or is that, I've also been told that it's an open and closed shut system and there is no middle ground to that system. I haven't been there, so I can't see it. I don't know. Apparently the Garfield group was there and they did say that there is a cranking system, but I'm not even sure what kind of cranking system it is. It's very unusual to have a dam that you can't a system you can't monitor, you can't control the flow of the flow of the water going out of the lake.
The control system has simply stopped functioning, but if it's open, if you can open it and close it, you would think you could alter the amount of it, but.
I think it's a manual. I can follow up with Jim to find out how it actually works, but I think it's from my conversations, limited conversations with him, I think it's a manual process of cranking, opening up a gate.
But the question is, can you crank it part way and leave it there? And it might be that for whatever reason, while it does have a crank, it only will stop in one position or the other, or maybe it used to, I don't know, I'm just throwing stuff out there. I haven't ever put my hands on there that or been there while they did it. I can't rule on the possibility that for some reason the equipment will no longer do that or never did. I just don't know.
I honestly don't get the sense, we'll figure out from Jim, but I don't get the sense that what we're dealing with is it can physically only be 6 feet down or 0 feet down. I just think that there's some kind of opposition to constantly managing it throughout the winter, as opposed to doing it twice a year, lowering it and raising it.
So what if we lower it 2 feet instead of 6? Once.
There's been different discussions.
Okay.
So as far as the 2 feet instead of 6, I know one of the first concerns that's gonna be brought up by some people is it's not killing weeds like 6 feet kills weeds.
Right.
Especially undesirable, even invasive weeds that we spend tens of thousands of dollars on, removing in arguably a more kind of harmful way, unless there's the other argument that the drawdown is harmful to the fish and animals and plants. So there's a lot of things going on. My question to you, Kim, though, I guess I didn't realize, I knew that the NOIs, or was it the order of conditions, I don't understand all the terminology, had been bundled between the dash and the drawdown. When did that happen and why did that happen? And when you're saying extending just for the drawdown, are we talking about an old order of condition that was just about the drawdown? Or are we talking about the bundled order of conditions, and how can we parse that out and figure out where we're at?
So what happened is the drawdown extension was still in effect when we issued the bundled order of conditions for a drawdown, the dash, and the mechanical harvesting. What notification for Heritage that disapproved a portion for the drawdown, we had to kind of go fast on how to, so we could do a drawdown in October. So being that the drawdown order was still in effect, we couldn't have open orders at this time. You had to either close one out or let it expire. We just couldn't have that. So at the time was pull the drawdown out of the bundled order. That's the new order, which is 2-3, and then the 2-300 would still be in effect, and Jim could open up that gate legally. Do you follow me? Noel, do you follow me on this? Right. So that's what we did. We amended that order by pulling out that drawdown, and which Fisheries was totally against. and we still had the extension going on the old order, and he was able to do the drawdown in October, the 6-foot drawdown. But under we had the understanding that a new notice of intent was coming.
So what we're being asked to do now is to re-extend the old order of conditions on the 6-foot drawdown. Okay, I mean, my feeling at this moment is that we've been doing the 6-foot drawdown for decades. There are reasons for it. And maybe the state says, no, you can't do it anymore. But based on what I know, which I'm not a lake scientist, I would, hope that I would think that the best course of action for the town would be to apply for the 6-foot drawdown. I mean, because there's a history of doing it, whatever animals or plants, whatever the way they're affected by the 6-foot drawdown, that's the status quo in Lake Garfield for decades. Whether it's good or bad, I mean, it's what we've been doing, right? So is it just the case that if we just go for a 6-foot drawdown, they're just going to say no?
The commission, it would be up to the commission on how they
Okay.
want to, whether they want to approve, or you could certainly do the request for the commission.
So I guess this is obviously not.
Yeah, there's points that the commission has to when they decide whether or not to extend an order. And one of those that sticks out for them is the fact that there's new information that has come to the commission, basically saying that the order needs to be closed out and a new notice of intent has to be issued, which pretty much is asking for the applicant to provide data and documentation that is down is actually fitting the aquatic problem there, and would be in compliance with the state's guidelines, which were issued in 22 for lake drawdowns and natural heritage mass wildlife's recommendations for drawdowns. It's really up to the commission, Justin, but they would have to be, informed about why the state is against 6-foot drawdown. They can certainly do a 6 if they can provide documentation that it warrants because of flooding, but it certainly can be done. It requires.
Okay, well, I don't. Sorry to cut you off here. It's kind of difficult with the technical difficulties. Apologies. I don't want to have a Concom meeting at a select,
No.
during a select board meeting. So I guess the reason why I even put this on the agenda was I just wanted to make sure the board knows, and I'm not just applying for a 6-foot drawdown on my own, because Mike said, oh, the town has to, extend the order of conditions. So from here, why doesn't the board, as long as we're okay with it, say we are requesting an extension of the original order of conditions, and the Concom, then has their meeting, and that's up to them. And I'm not, obviously that's out of our purview, but that's all we can and should do, I think, as a select board, unless the town said we don't even want to go for an extension of the order of conditions. But based on everything I know, and I just feel like it's what we've been doing, and the Concom, if there's good reasons to not do it, that's up to the Concom to say, not the board, not the select board. But
I actually have 2 questions. The first is, it's actually the town's purview, not Lake Garfield Working Group, and based on the fact that it's the DLO that's doing the drawdown.
well, the Lake
Why
Garfield
is the
Working
select
Group is
board-
merely advisory.
Right, so.
It's an ad hoc advisory
Okay,
committee.
so the
Yeah.
select board is the one that's saying that we do it or don't do it because it's under our purview, because it's the town that's doing the drawdown. Just
Yeah,
check.
I mean, I think so, we've let Lake Garfield Working Group, and maybe it's worth revisiting what exactly their role is. We've
Right.
kind of let them manage Dash and manage the drawdown and the lake scientist. And there's a new thing, I don't know if you got the link, there's a new thing where you can go on your computer and see the flow and the height of the lake at the dam. That was in effect for the first time this winter. So we've kind of let Lake Garfield Working Group that's their baby and they manage it.
Right.
But as far as I'm concerned, when the town applies to the Concom, it comes from the select board, not from the working group
That's right.
formally. So that's why I brought it to the board. I'm not trying to,
No, I
Yeah.
got you, I just wanna make sure I fully understand the situation. My concern is that if the wildlife people are against it, I feel like there's some reason, and that I'm not in a position to make an informed, I mean, maybe I should have been, but I was busy working on the fires and and stuff. I'm not sufficiently educated on either what would be required to change our application or to make an informed decision on how much we should be doing the drawdown. I would say it's not a simple thing, and my concern is that Lake Garfield Working Group is going on the basis of, this is what we've always done, and it was easy to do. But that's not always the best reason to go forward with.
that's why I'm saying we should do it. That's why I'm saying the board should
Right.
say, I think we're kind of in agreement that we're not well equipped to really be to discuss this at this point in
But if we're talking
time.
about taking the Concom's time, and the Concom is basically giving us a heads up that, hey, this old way of doing things no longer meets the current standard and the current guidelines, then before we waste their time when they're just told us that it doesn't meet those standards, it behooves us to say, oh, well, what are the current standards and what would we have to change to meet them? And what's being balanced here, like, is there new data that says that actually drawing down the 6 feet versus drawing down 2 feet isn't going to make a difference, or is gonna make a difference?
We don't have that data.
Exactly, I don't have it either.
I think lacking the director of operations here, Lake Garfield Working Group, lacking the time and expertise and familiarity with it, yeah, usually you would say, let's take a step back. I think that it's somewhat timely, unfortunately. I wish that we had, dealt with this months ago. Maybe we could learn about it. But I guess what I'm getting at is, it is ultimately up to the Concom, so let's say that. Let's go with the order of conditions, and as much as maybe we could do the research and work of the Concom.
Well,
Can we
Yeah.
just do a quick, what are these documents that Mike Jermaine actually gave us? So,
Kim,
is it
Kim, can you
okay?
hear everything?
Can I just walk through them? Kim, do you mind?
Kim?
I just want, can you hear
Can you
me?
hear?
Sure,
You can't hear? You can hear?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
You can't?
okay.
Yeah, I just wanna quickly go through the documents that Mike Jermaine gave us. So the first one is from 2002. And it mentions, the notification of file number, but it says the proposed project is an annual 3-foot drawdown for flood storage and a 6-foot drawdown each third year for weed control. Please see attached. And then there's a letter from Chris Blair. And what does that pertain to? Is that, because that's the same year, that's 5 years later. Is he asking to change the order of condition for this WPA form order of condition here by Kenneth Wagner? And who is Kenneth Wagner?
Kenneth Wagner used to be a consultant for the Lake Garfield.
Okay. Because was the 2000, because I know we say we've been doing this 6-foot drop for decades, but we were only supposed to do it every 3 years.
Well, no, look, don't look at all the documents, because you're gonna get lost. okay?
Exactly, exactly.
Well, that's why I'm wondering why we even have them.
Well,
Look at-
I-
no, well,
I
look at-
No, I know,
appreciate it.
I know. I appreciate it.
Look
I
at
appreciate it.
Look at the 2300242.
I mean, this one, the
That
order
looks
that
like
order
this.
condition. Yeah. I don't-
Okay.
right? Or no, WPA
Yeah,
Form 7,
Form 7, okay,
right? I think that's the one, because
okay.
Well, kind of, that's-
What's the date on that?
3/18/2021 was when the date of order was last extended, and it was extended till June 27th, 2024. So is that? I guess, I'm sorry, I didn't realize all of the pieces of this puzzle.
I don't have 7, I think. I don't have it. I thought I printed it out.
But we don't really have,
Noel, what pieces of information you feel like you would like to have before you could, in good conscience, proceed? I mean, if
Oh.
we just,
I mean, we're gonna proceed, but this is on our agenda for tomorrow.
then let's,
And I think the most pertinent and relevant information is the response from fisheries from October. They are making a very strong recommendation. And we'll talk about that, but Concom will talk about it tomorrow and people will,
and I would come if I wasn't already committed to having to be at the finance committee meeting.
I hear ya.
so let's, if it's on your agenda,
Mhm.
right, well, there's no sense, it's up to the Concom and it's on your agenda for tomorrow night. And the select board's
Yep.
unfortunately uneducated a little bit and confused. And,
Yeah, we should-
you know, in a different situation, but this is the situation we're in, so.
Right.
It's up to the Concom tomorrow night.
Yep.
I mean, there's not,
Yeah, I mean, I think Kim and I just wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page as far as what information we're gonna be addressing at our meeting and because we understood that you were given a lot of documents.
well, this was the whole thing, right? So the town is being asked to extend the order of conditions. We are the town for this
Yep.
purposes. I'm not the town. So when I asked Kim to put it on the agenda to extend the order of conditions, I know that really I can't do anything by myself. So I said I'd put it on the next select board agenda and discuss it. It's hard, coming into it and just learning kind of now how it's all been bundled and unbundled. I've looked through some of the documents, but it's incredibly confusing.
Yep.
I've been part of, as I said earlier, numerous email chains about the drawdown. And because the select board never really had to do anything about it, didn't really fully dive into it. And I just think in lieu of that, it's gonna be up to the Concom about how to proceed, and I'm sorry that it's kind of half-baked and.
No,
But-
that's fine, I mean, that's the whole thing, I mean, it is a Concom decision. But,
And all you can decide as the board is to say yes or no to moving forward with it.
To extending
To
the
extend
order, yeah.
That's all, and I think, yeah.
But I'm recommending that we do, because to not,
Right.
with the history, without consulting the director of operations and further consulting Lake Garfield working group would kind of be rude to those parties,
Yeah.
those involved parties. If the Concom says, based on state guidance and science, you can't do that, that is what it is. But as a select board, it would be hard to kind of stop it at this point without really having thoroughly learned what's going on in the director of operations and the Lake Garfield working group. So
And by all
well, yeah, I mean,
accounts,
certainly, we weren't looking for that kind of a,
Oh, I know you
Keep
weren't.
it from
I
you.
feel
I just
bad
really
that
just
I
wanted to
didn't,
make sure
that's all.
that you were aware of the information that we were dealing with and that,
So
you knew what
that
was going
fisheries
on.
and wildlife letter is 5 years old though, right?
No, it's last fall.
October,
Oh, it's last
October 6th.
Cause it said something about 5 years in there, or 2023, okay. Cause it did say something about 5 years.
alright, well,
Okay,
good luck at
So-
your meeting tomorrow night.
yeah, and I'm sorry, I can't be there.
That's about right.
I
You
need
should
that
read
time
when you have
turner
time,
thing,
huh?
yeah, I know, I was just going for that.
You need a clone.
I do.
We all do.
I got
I
a
need
few
a
other
clone of Kim.
candidates I'd like to put through that too. But
Thank you,
hit the
Kim.
ground running, none of this gestation. That just takes too long.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
Thank you
you.
very much.
Alright, thank you, Kim. Thank you, Noel. Good luck tomorrow night.
No problem.
What we need is a transporter.
Yeah.
You know, there's a whole branch of amusement value out of Star Trek transporters that they're actually, it makes a copy of you, right? And-
Yeah.
And there have been cases in the whole franchise where there have actually two copies of people running around. So, so I'm thinking when I need the transporter, because that's, the copy would be me. It would actually have my memories and knowledge already. Like, it wouldn't have to start with a tabula rasa.
Or,
I think
well,
you might meet yourself and find that you both went on different political directions.
That seems unlikely,
It's funny, nature
but
versus nurture.
but I
guess.
would have to, but that's the whole thing, we'd start from this point.
Right, sure.
Poor thing, she doesn't get the 20-year-old body, that would suck. But she gets all my memories, so, you know.
in an alternate reality where the library loan is paid off.
Then I'm done, then I can depart in peace.
We're never paying off, we'll leave the
In that
$1
case,
principal.
Yeah, we're not paying that sucker out then, sorry, you're
We'll have the
due.
library loan in 20 years, we'll owe $1 on it.
It's
Pay
like
$25 a year in
It's
interest.
like a Twilight Zone. You're here for 1,000 years because there's that one little dollar. stuck in
I
some-
can't leave until.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Alright,
What's next up?
by the way, I hope everyone understands about the order conditions, why I brought it forward, very
Oh,
unideal,
you do.
but it is where it is. We have some bids to handle, so first one is Roger Trucking was a 1-year contract from July 1, 23 to June 30th, 24, with the option for extending for 2 consecutive 1-year periods. So Jim, I don't know if he explicitly said it, but I think the implied recommendation was to extend that contract for the first.
Do you have that?
Do you have it? I know, I was just
Which
looking to see if
document?
I,
Roger,
the
the
trucking, the
We
actual.
contract, I didn't see that in all
Yeah.
the attachments that you sent.
The
There was-
bid,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, there was one that
I don't
was,
think I have it either.
there was one that was the John Field one, which was the
Right.
bid, the bid and then his proposal, and then there was another one.
Oh, today I haven't sent it, but
Oh, here it is.
I have,
It was on the 19th,
did you get it?
yeah,
Yeah, Roger Trucking.
On the 19th.
19th.
So look at that, but also I found more. I do have them.
I remember it too. 'Cause it was on
Yeah,
there.
I thought I did too, but I couldn't find that one. I found everything else but that, so I just wanted to.
Oh, I
Make
haven't
sure it was
seen
out there.
Jim in ages. He said to me a while back that he was talking to Roger, we had discussed maybe buying the compactor.
Yeah.
And Roger had actually said that he might be willing to do it, but I never saw anything further. And I think that,
I think there was an email, I'll go back and look, cause
because that would change these numbers substantively, which is why it's relevant.
But is not the renting the compactor its own,
That is a good
if
point.
you go down to rental of equipment. Wait, sorry. Oh, monthly rental fee for a 4-yard compactor hopper for municipal solid waste, so we just wouldn't pay that anymore.
Right, we might be paying to buy it though.
so there is an email in there from the,
Where is
from the 11th.
Paul Prince, Tiffany, where are you looking monthly?
This was the updated bid. Oh, did he not submit the updated bid?
It might be here, I might just, oh, here, 40-yard bulky waste, scrap removal.
40-yard compact.
Oh, there it
40-yard
is,
compactor.
$750.
So
Right.
750, so we wouldn't pay the $750 each month.
Or we might be paying it as a rent-to-own
He
situation.
did, back on the 11th is when Jim forwarded a email from Rob at Roger Trucking,
That's,
the office manager, that had the dollar value
oh,
for the
would you say the 11th?
the 11th, yeah. If you just do a search on compactor, it probably will show up, because it's what's in there.
I'm not worried about extending the contract, in part also because municipal solid waste isn't subject to procurement in the same ways, subject to bidding in the same way.
Okay.
We put it out to bid as a best practice, but it's not rigid. All that being said, it's a 1 year, with 2 options to renew, and we're being recommended to renew. And I would move that we extend the Roger Trucking bid by a year, which would be July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025.
So just for another year?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first year of that contract. I would agree. Second.
Alright, we'll call a vote on the motion. Yes. From me and Susan.
She's.
Yeah, no, I'm just reading this. So sending part of the compactor tomorrow, that was on the 3rd, he's asking if we'd be interested in a 5-year deal if he works on the rate for the container rental. So that's why it actually is relevant. But I don't have a follow-up that says an actual number, I just have this.
I have a
3rd.
number on the 11th.
You have a number on the 11th?
Yeah. No, no, because he forwarded it on April 11th, so on the 4th is actually when the office manager sent some information to Jim, and he forwarded it to us on the 11th.
Okay, because I never got it, the only thing I got on the 11th was Valley Galley.
Oh, yeah, it looks like he may have just sent it to me.
Okay, so perhaps you could fill us in on what that would be.
It actually has, it says, per our conversation below is a list of products you wish to purchase from Roger Trucking, and it's the whole, the product, the container with guide rails, 5-foot standard, the hopper extension, total $28,850.
$28,850?
Yep.
Does it say anything further about the?
Contract?
So, what, we can hold off on it?
I think we need to have a
Yeah,
conversation with Jim.
I was not aware at all about
Yeah,
any of this.
and I never got I was waiting to get that number,
Yeah. let me-
where I would have followed up on it, but I never did.
Alright, well, why don't we not vote on the motion to extend for 1 year and then just hold off and see what proposals we get?
I mean, the downside is that, if we wanted to go through the purchase, we either have to pay over time at $750 a month, which is in the current, budget, or we're gonna have to tack another 28K on there
You could,
somewhere.
but you're paying $9,000 a year to rent it.
That is true. And maybe in an ideal world, we'll pay the $9,000 a year towards buying it, if they're willing to let us buy it on time.
I mean, it's not that many years that it takes you to pay it off.
There is that was my initial.
I'll still be around because we're gonna spend $1.
But, okay, I think we'll just wait to see, basically, what's the proposal from Roger? Is it reasonable?
Yep.
And is it really 5 years?
Yeah.
And also, one of my problems with a 5-year contract,
Mhm. or
anything with solid waste lately, is, okay, we sign on to 5 years, but what we've had companies do, like Casella did after it bought Valley, is they say after a year, we can't do it for those prices anymore.
Yeah.
But the town has no option to say, I mean, there's probably some option, but it is less likely to say, we don't wanna pay these high prices anymore, you know? But we had, and John Field from the tree service did the same thing. We had it 1 year, I think, with 2 options to extend, and it came up on the extension, he said, I can't do it for those amounts. So it almost like guarantees the contractor more money, but doesn't guarantee the town
Any
any reliability, cause they
Yeah.
can just say, so I'm not into it.
So
And in
it's
these
essentially
industries.
not an extended contract,
Yeah.
it's a 1-year contract.
Well, I
It
think,
is, it's a
but I
1-year
think
contract
even like
because-
when you have a company that offer these prices for years 2 and 3, but they say, well, we're just not gonna do it, and we don't have any recourse, okay, well, now you owe us some monetary amount, or you have to do it,
Right.
how does that help the town to have a 5-year contract? Unless we know that it's going to be honored for 5 years.
Exactly, or unless we know that it's gonna be honored with a maximum of, like, if they're saying a 5% increase each year, at least we can plan for it, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I would have no problem
Right.
even maybe accepting a 5% increase each year, the way municipal solid waste has been.
right,
But, I guess, Roger,
I'll
maybe
reach out.
as you get it from Roger Trucking,
Mhm.
can you also consult with Donna to see what our options might be to actually lock in a long-term contract and not be kind of pushed around a year or two into the contract when they decide they don't wanna do it at those prices anymore?
I mean, and I would understand if they just didn't wanna offer it, because what's happening in their industry, it makes it so volatile that they can't commit to it, which I.
We never asked for a 5-year contract.
No,
They brought it
no,
up.
they are the ones who did, but I think we have to know, like, what is the expectation of how the compact would be paid for, what would be the prices in the other years. I mean, we're totally open to the concept, but we need to know what the terms
Can you, I can't find that in my email.
are. What, the bid?
Their Roger Trucking's contract, I can't see.
You have it pulled up, Susan, can you just forward
I
it?
did, but I don't anymore now,
Yeah.
hang on,
I haven't seen it.
here we go.
It was on the 19th, you said.
This is the gravel contract. And, no, that's equipment rental. You must have sent the other one, right? I think Justin sent it, cause I had, the DROs.
I found it, don't worry about it.
Sorry, you could forward that to me. And I'll follow up with Donna and, Roger Trucking too.
Yeah, I mean, if we can actually lock into a reasonable increase for the next 5 years.
Yep.
Or 3, I'm more than happy to, it's not subject to procurement in the same way.
I
So-
talked to Jim before you talk to the other two, so you make sure you get any other information he has in his head.
Yeah. And then, and maybe Jim wants to negotiate directly with Roger too, depending on how,
Mhm.
what his relationship, I think he actually has really good working relationship with them, so. The towns, if I could summarize, the town's open to a more than 1-year contract, as long as we can actually lock it in with some recourse.
Mhm.
Because we just get told by a company in year 2, oh yeah, we don't offer those year 2 prices anymore. What good did it do to just lock us in, only do an increase, but only to hurt the town? And then the other, yeah, I mean, I guess that would be.
So this one did give us disposal may increase each year up to 10%.
Right, so then here's the other question for Roger Truck. Let's say we don't wanna do a 5-year deal or a 2-year deal or any other deal, we wanna follow our, the contract we already have with them, are they gonna honor those 2nd-year prices?
No.
Or even within the 10% additional increase that they did not, which is, yeah. So,
But if they were willing, in my ideal world, they'd be willing to let us apply the year of 750 payments towards that 28K, and then we'd only have 2 more years of payments and we'd own it. But,
well, if we're gonna own the compactor, I mean, where does it stop? And I don't say this in a bad way, but I think we own some of the dumpsters already.
Yeah, I think so too.
So what do we not own and should we own it? Should we just get in the habit of trying to own everything there as much as possible? I mean, we're not gonna own the hauling and tipping, but.
well,
we
look
own
at the
our
difference
tipping.
in the prices.
Yeah.
There's your answer.
But I'm sure the compactor costs a bit more than just a regular.
Yeah, it does, and I don't think there's anything wrong with, the downside to owning the containers is that the way they typically do it is they come and they take the container and leave it empty.
Yeah.
If you own it.
Yeah.
It's actually
It
problematic.
gets mixed into the system.
It gets mixed in the
Except for
system, or they do 2
mattresses.
trips, they take it, they dump it,
Yeah.
they bring it
We don't
back,
really
and now
want
you're paying for double.
We don't want that.
No, we don't.
But we own mattresses, I assume, and electronics.
We do.
Okay.
But their mattresses is like once a year or once every other year. I mean,
But, and it works too, I understand. Okay, so Roger, you're gonna work on that? Good. The next one is John Field Tree Service. So one thing is, in going to renew it, I realized it's actually not a 1-year contract with 2 extensions, it's a 3-year contract. That's from July 1st, 23 to June 30th, 2026. So there's
so
nothing.
it's actually, we're already there. Why do we have to renew it if it's
We
through
don't.
2026? Oh, okay.
There's some confusion, because right around last year was when we started figuring out, why are we bidding all these things out every year with
Yeah.
options for new, let's just do full contract. That being said, I have a conflict of interest, a new conflict of interest.
Dun-dun-dun.
So,
A new one. What's
it's
the-
actually, at this point, not a real conflict of interest, appearance of conflict of interest, but I got to thinking about it. And my fiance's father works for John Field. So,
Stop being
anything,
so connected.
anything in the future with John Field, and I talked to the Ethics Commission, and technically, once you're married, your father-in-law is considered an immediate relative. So, once I'm married, that's an immediate relative, I can't participate on anything to do with John Field.
Do you guys have a
September. So, at this point, it's an appearance of conflict of interest, it will be a real conflict of interest, I can do it with John Field, I'm beginning to think I'm getting pushed away. John Field,
I can't talk to anybody.
John Field, we don't interact with much.
No, we really
My
don't.
future mother-in-law works for Southern Berkshire Ambulance. So,
This is what happens in school.
so,
Yeah.
conflict of interest law in September, I can't do anything with Southern Berkshire Ambulance, starting now, I
I just
really.
said you didn't like them. Would that help?
No, negative or positive, so, and starting now, it's really, I guess from talking to the state ethics, they're technically not immediate family until we're married, obviously.
Just out of curiosity, aren't there, I thought there were like a bunch of weird little waiver things if you're a small town.
You can disclose, so sometimes what I disclose is you can disclose the appearance of a conflict of interest and participate in the matter. As long as you disclose it and say that you think that you can deal in being impartially. There's certain things, so reasonably foreseen positive or negative financial impact on yourself or an immediate family member, you just can't participate. Unless it's because of the rule of necessity or something, there's no disclosure, you just have to recuse yourself. So in these 2 instances, there's no disclosure process, I just can't participate.
In the future.
In the future.
So,
Well, we're not doing anything now because the contract doesn't have to be renewed.
so in September, I absolutely
Right,
can't,
can't,
and
right.
now it's an appearance. And I hadn't really thought about this, in the past, because it didn't really seem like it was immediate family, but once you're married, your spouse's parents are considered immediate family. So,
But it's not like they own the company.
nope.
I was just.
It's
But,
not like
so,
they're gonna-
I was just talking to state ethics yesterday or today, and it's not like they own the company, they said, do they work in the contracts? And I said,
No way.
they might come out and do tree work, there's about 10 crews or something, there's a chance they don't come out and do tree work. Well, I said, if there's a chance they work on the contract, that's a problem. I said, look, it's a huge company, and it's not really gonna put the company in a great place or a bad place if they get this tiny contract.
In fact, they probably don't even care.
But
They
it-
probably have
It
to take a
doesn't,
bigger one
it doesn't
somewhere else.
matter, and like with Southern Berkshire, she's 1 day a week at Southern Berkshire. If, whatever, but all that being said, it's immediate family and it's reasonably foreseen financial interest, and I'm beginning to think it's just too much.
Yeah.
I can't, the ambulance one, the John Field is, whatever, the ambulance one is a big thing going on, and it's yet another big thing that I'm not gonna be able to participate in, so, just a heads up.
I have all the
Just a heads up.
reasons to not, oh my god, alright.
Did you think about that before you got engaged?
Yeah, what's with this
I
woman,
mean-
maybe you gotta pick somebody else.
I really like you, however, your parents work in the wrong place, I can't deal with it.
So, no, I mean, it's like crazy, but there's not anything, so like you mentioned, the disclosure,
Yeah.
at this point, I could do a disclosure, and I was prepared to do a disclosure because I still think I can participate impartially. But in September, she said in September,
Can't.
that's it, they count as immediate family, you just cannot participate,
Right.
so. It is what it is.
Although honestly, like for this particular thing, I wouldn't, I think that you're not participating, it doesn't make a big difference, because, I mean, I don't know. Who knows how many, if we'll have to put it out to bid again when this contract is up, right? We can't just, can we automatically renew, or do we have to put it out for bid again?
Tree service?
Yeah.
I think tree service is subject to procurement in the way that municipal waste
Right.
isn't, but I don't really know.
Cause I remember there were several bids and we chose them.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yes,
Yeah. So, yeah, anyway.
just more,
And some of our triangles could get a little scratchy for a while there.
well, that's a bummer, so that's a 1-year contract, I can't participate on that essentially. I mean, I could between now and September and say I have an appearance of conflict of interest disclosure, but it's just not really worth it, so.
And right now, there's no other dog in the race.
Yeah, they're right.
So it's not really even, there's
Yeah.
either, it's a
You can
up,
say what you
down,
want,
and
it's not
move
gonna
on,
be- yeah.
like.
So going back to John W. Field Tree Service, there's no, we're just gonna let it flow through and.
Yeah,
I-
the contracts.
I'll just call them up and,
It's good
say
till
it's-
2026, I'm not sure why we thought we had.
I kinda know, it was just that I couldn't find, I had certain
Okay.
documents, and the document said year 1, year 2, year 3,
Right,
but Roger says year 1, year 2, year 3 as well. And so I couldn't tell from what I had if it was 1 year with 2 options for renew or a 3-year. I found the original bid documents, which indicated that it was a 3-year contract period,
for both the hauling and John.
no,
just for John,
Just for John.
different.
but bless your heart for being able to find all that stuff so
Yeah.
efficiently, because.
Well, efficiently, you don't know how long.
Yeah, I noticed it's tough. I tried to find that stuff too.
Yeah,
And I didn't get in right off the bat.
there's a way to do it, and I can show,
Is it in the, what do they call it? I can't remember what they call it, they have a term for it, so.
well,
I
here,
gotta say that on Google Mail, I have had such problems searching for stuff. And that includes things where I know it's there and then literally had to base it on when I knew the month it occurred and go back all the way there, page by page through my old emails to find it, and it was there. And the search, none of the search, and even after I found it, I went back and tried searching on several different search strings and none of them found it.
I know,
So,
I was trying to find an email about winter overtime today,
Oh, that one,
when I was doing the minutes.
the one that Eric did, the one that Eric said?
Yeah, I didn't know it was from Eric, it was forwarded from you from Eric, and when I looked up Eric's name, it didn't come up, so I looked up Nicole's name, it didn't come up. I looked at the exact amount of money, it didn't come up, so then I forget how I found it, it's weird. That's
it's
right.
so frustrating.
So, I might as well just show you,
By
cause
the way, apparently we're not the only ones that are frustrated with that search. Everyone I've talked to that has Google Mail is frustrated by it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not unique to us.
So, I thought I knew where it was.
Can you only find it when you're in?
Here, I found it.
When you're logged
Go
in?
to this page where you see these things.
Like our landing page?
With the one that says Citizen Action Center,
Yeah, on the left there.
you hit home from that page, we kind of have 2 landing pages.
I know, that's so confusing.
Hit home, go,
Where is home?
hit home,
Oh, this one, okay.
you go to Citizen Action Center and hit procurement, which has a shopping cart. If you want stuff
That's a shock.
older than 2019, hit that, but if you want closed bids, you hit this,
Oh,
and you
and
get
then you can see.
2023. So,
And that's what I saw, so where's the bid at?
did you go to closed bids and then hit 2023?
Gravel,
Yeah.
solid waste and recycling services.
And then, like,
Maritime,
in this case, we wanna go to municipal
probably tree
solid
pruning and
waste.
removal.
Municipal solid waste.
Great.
There, you hit that,
Oh, there it is.
but then sometimes you have to subscribe to updates and put in your information before you can see some of the
That's why,
documents.
'cause can you just go back down? Because I clicked on some of those and didn't see
Oh,
anything.
apparently I can go back here.
Yeah, like I clicked on, the equipment bid. Oh, I see, I didn't see that stuff.
But you can do that, and then sometimes if you put in your information, like
Yeah.
you're an interested bidder,
Yep, yep.
it will show you even more stuff. Don't ask me, but there's actually a lot there. I was
Yet
surprised.
another thing on your to-do list.
So gravel and heavy equipment, the only question I have for you here, Susan, is we've been doing these as 1-year bids. And do we wanna try for 2 or 3 years?
So I got it.
Gravel
This is
apparently.
John
we're
Field and
using-
Roger Trucking, so now I gotta find a different one. It's a different.
Well, don't even look them up because they're
Okay.
up, they're up. These were just 1-year bids, period.
Okay.
Mari happened to be in town hall when Roger and I were discussing this, and she said New Marlboro uses a 2-year contract for gravel,
Okay.
and maybe the same for equipment rental, but I forget. Do you recall, Roger?
No, I don't remember that one.
It sounds like we're losing our gravel supplier.
I was just gonna say, do we know that so who is your gravel supplier?
It's Ben Tryon from the
Pit
the
here.
pit.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you just cut out however many miles of transportation you be coming from Canaan or whatever, you automatically save a bunch of money
Yeah,
from CDL drivers and dump trucks. and-
right, yeah.
So it was as I understand it, it was almost, it's been coming from the gravel pit for many decades.
Correct.
There was 1 year where someone else won the bid and it didn't go well.
Is there a reason that we want to not?
It sounds like that they're not gonna be bidding again for it.
It's from talking to Jim, they're done with gravel.
They're
If you-
closing the bed.
If you go, they're starting to put wood chips at the top of it.
Yeah.
So,
That's what Jim said, that he's done using the gravel pit, and
Yeah,
that
I
this was
get
his last year.
I mean.
not that they would have necessarily won the
Yeah.
bid, but history says they probably would have won the bid.
Yeah,
So if you're not even gonna bid,
But if they're not bidding, if they're closing the gravel pit, that's why they're not bidding. And if they're not bidding, then we have to put it out to bid and see who
Yeah.
else, it's gonna be more. Yay, I love the fact that we're doing that now.
I thought they weren't closing it for another 5 years.
I don't know that they're don't
I don't know if they're
everyone
close to-
go and say that they're closing the gravel pit. What might be the case is that when you do town roads, that's kind of different than doing someone's driveway. So maybe they're just not
Right.
bidding for the town
For the
anymore,
big,
right?
big
For the
projects.
humongous amounts of the different kinds of gravel. So I don't get the sense they're closing. I've seen bulldozers and heavy equipment over there in the past few weeks.
Okay.
They're not done.
No, I don't think so.
Well, because I'm gonna need my driveway done another year, so maybe I should get it done this year.
Wait, and didn't we just sign
The
that?
earth removal program.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're not done. I've seen bulldozers and stuff, like I
Okay.
said, operating. They're doing some, there's not like there's closed up shop. It sounds like from what Jim told Roger, they're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
So, do we wanna do 2-year contract for gravel, heavy equipment rental?
I mean,
My inclination is to just do 2
yeah,
years.
then that's fewer times we have to keep renewing something
Yeah.
and putting it out for bid, et cetera. Like, why would we not want to?
The other thing that Mari said, this is just kind of word of mouth, but she said gravel's getting more expensive because now they're having to break up rocks to get gravel. So wherever we go, it's probably gonna be quite a bit more expensive. We already have the road maintenance budget set. I'm not recommending that we change it. She said one of the ways New Marlboro is handling it, and this is kind of anecdotal, they're paving more roads because gravel is getting that much more expensive.
It's actually gonna be equal to, oh
So,
my god, it's so expensive to pay. That's
so
not a
expensive
good
to live.
implication.
alright, so
They're gonna start charging for
can we
everything.
go ahead and just plan on putting those out to bid?
Yeah,
I'll work
You'll
on.
work
I'll
with town
on that.
council?
I'll work with town
Did you
council.
get the ones from last year that I sent you?
Yes, I do
Okay.
have those.
That's the whole bid.
Yep.
And then there's the process of,
what do you
well,
know?
you know, and you'll ask town council. And the only other thing is, it should end up on the website there, on the bidding page.
On
And-
ours. And it
On
should, I think
ours.
it's,
And yet
could also
it's
try
probably
to
get-
combines too.
I was just gonna say, we're gonna post it elsewhere
Yeah.
too, because nobody's gonna come looking at our
So
website.
I think I have to post it on combines. I have to figure out what gets posted on the central register as
The
well.
other thing we should really probably do, I don't know if it's necessary, but who do New Marlboro, Barrington, all of our neighbors use, and just actually call them and say, can you put in a bid?
Right,
Yeah, just in case they would miss
that's a
it.
really good idea. And besides, like, that would, if they're already coming out here and they're already familiar with it, like, and maybe they've already picked ones that get good bids.
Yeah, so,
Couple
We
places down in the Canaan area and stuff.
yes. The problem was the last time that we had a bid against Tryon, which was last year, it was from Westfield or West Springfield,
So
but they didn't offer transportation.
It was crazy.
They didn't offer transportation, so we
We
Yeah.
have to get it.
Yeah,
That's why I said, there's.
someone will
It's
do
always
it.
been working different.
But New Marlboro uses Wilkinson, which is pretty local, and I think they go to Sagala's and Canaan,
Yes,
so.
that's the one I was thinking of, they just opened that a few years ago.
I think though, part of what's been going on is people didn't really bid for Monterey because it's just, you can't beat
Right.
gravel that's in town.
Yeah.
So maybe now if people know
What
that
did
Tryon's not bidding,
Tryon is not bidding.
Right.
then,
Maybe they will.
then Wilkinson will bid or whatever, we're not favoring a specific company, but other companies will actually
Right,
bid for
yeah.
once. Okay. That's annual town meeting prep was on there, I'm not sure with Frank not here, how much we could or should, or if we wanna talk about any of that.
I had I had my weekly meeting with Eric.
Yeah.
Kinshirf, and I sent him the, cause he's gonna be there as well.
Yeah.
And he's gonna prepare himself and prepare some stuff, just some informational stuff for us that he's gonna send. I'll talk to him. We have another meeting next Wednesday, so that'll be before the meeting, so I'll have some stuff from him then.
So sometimes Sarah Hunter comes, I think.
I can ask, I know she has been, really, really busy, she's been working in Blandford, they've been transitioning, I think, to some new software or something over there. So she's been, every time she calls me, it says the town of Blandford on the phone, and it's like.
So she's in the area.
Yeah,
Good.
I know, she's been
Just
around.
Stop over.
Blandford,
But, yeah.
they have a new TA also.
Yeah.
And they, although I heard that the previous guy was pretty good, who knows what happened in the end.
I can ask her and see if she wants to show up, just,
It'd be
I can invite her.
I mean, I think that it's worked in the past, just whichever one that feels like we wanna
Tackle each other.
tackle each thing, and like, I tell you, it was so cute. One year, Mary came to me after meeting, she's like, did you mind, this was the first year, did you mind that Justin answered all the questions? I'm like, no.
So,
Oh my
when we
God.
get to the 700 numbers, you're gonna put a hold on it and then explain, correct?
Correct. Just remind me.
You
Because
can put a
it's-
hold,
I'll say there's
No.
gonna be a hold.
you can put a hold and then he'll
And Justin will explain.
I'll put the hold on the
Okay.
first one, if I don't buy the first one,
Then I'll
you
put-
have permission
Yeah.
to put it on another 700.
You think I should I put up all myself on the fire stuff? Or do you think that
I just about guarantee there's a whole,
someone's gonna do it, but I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if,
it's
Like,
nice, I think,
from a policy standpoint, if it makes sense to just go ahead and put a hold and give a little.
I think
I-
it's something worth explaining, yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping, so I wrote an article for the Monterey News. I think he's putting it pretty much to the front, so I'm hoping that that will do the job if people read it and people get it.
And if you get it and you get to read it.
Be careful when you email the Monterey News these days, because you don't know who you're getting.
No, because he's sort of doing the
Yeah.
handoff.
Yeah, because I was emailing back and forth, and Steve and I have a certain relationship, and then it wasn't Steve.
It was Steve and I were having a conversation about that article. I was really, really touched. I hope other people feel this way too, that he said that he felt it was one of the best public info articles he's had the pleasure to publish. I was like, I was in tears. I was so touched, because he has a high standard, and I felt like, like, I had 2 seconds of happiness before going back into the pits of despair. But
Before you came back to real life.
yeah, right.
I mean, there's the usual stuff like the police, stuff like that. Chris is figuring out electronic voting.
Yeah.
I sent you
I got the phone number.
contact Mark.
I'll talk to.
Is someone coming to, like, some years we've had somebody.
We're having Chris basically,
Travel.
Chris spearhead it, and I've given him Mark Trachtenberg's number, who runs it in New Marlboro. And we talked about if he wanted support, there's a volunteer, Adam G, that he might be willing to help. And if we wanted to, too, maybe hiring John Shannon for a few hours. But, that being said, right now Chris is holding the ball and
Okay.
running with it, and
Only a
If he needs
concern, cause
support.
he's gotta be focused on his thing.
well, that's what I told him, I
Yeah.
said, there's these various options for help, and you might consider them because you might really wanna be doing minutes. And so the ball's in his court, and he knows that he has options for support.
Okay.
Should he need them, and if it's a few $100s to pay John Shannon, will, come out of select board expenses or something, because we already pay so much for Cart to be there and town council to be there. I think Eric doesn't charge us because it's part of the contract, but we, it's not a big deal.
I thought that we didn't pay that town council that was part of their
That-
contract too.
So we've talked about this a couple times, and none of us, I think it is not, and I think you're onto something. And I think maybe it was that Mead, Tallerman and Costa was offering it, or that there's something to what you're saying, but I don't
You
think,
think it might have been confused with one of the other
I think it was-
contracts?
or with something, we can look it up
We should.
right now.
Cause maybe I'm wrong, but I remember that being part of the deal.
Well,
Just for ATM, not
what
necessarily
was
for us.
part of the deal was, and I don't honestly know if we've been paying or not, I really don't. I haven't been thoroughly. Okay.
We've only
That's
had
not-
one ATM since we brought them on, right? No, this is your-
We've had,
We had-
one, yeah,
Because there was a year I was elected.
well, yeah, cause they've
that
been
was
on board
past
almost 2
ATM.
years. 'Cause they
Right,
joined
so
us
it's
right
only-
after.
Exactly, so it's really only one ATM.
Yeah. Oh,
Who's there for the school special town meetings?
Yes, but I think specials weren't, I think it was
Yeah.
just the ATM that was included,
Yeah.
but there would only have been one of those.
I'm gonna look it up tonight,
Okay.
because, we floated that, here we are.
Ha.
Harrington Heat. Donna Brewer. They're proposing their rates of $225, $215, $140, and $125. And retainer agreements are counterproductive, which I agree. I'll look up in this document if I can, town meeting. We're in the weeds here. But it's an interesting question.
I know. Wouldn't let you search. And there was that onboarding.
It's just not,
It's not
there's
okay.
something about,
There's
there's.
the
it's very-
onboarding hours where she came and did like the
What
meetings
was that,
and
a visit, what was that called, a tour, so
Yeah.
listening tour,
listening to her.
listening tour is not popping up. So maybe it was part of something else, but that was the proposal back in April of 22.
That would have been before, wait,
Well, then we,
this is 24, so but April of 22 would have been before I was serving.
yeah, well, we got, so
So you got the
KP
proposal.
KP quit on us
Right,
in, I forget the timeline, but KP quit on us March or April, I think, of 22. And then we got Mead, Tallerman, Harrington Heath,
but I could have sworn I sat in
And-
on those meetings.
Leonard
Or was I
Copeland, and that's when we did interviews, I think it was your first meeting, or your second meeting.
Oh, right, so the interviews actually occurred after I was elected.
Yeah.
That makes sense, okay, but
I got
you were
some
looking
flack
at
because I said that we could go a day without town
Yeah.
council.
so
Which I still
that
think
was the
that we could.
proposal, but not the contract.
I don't know that we did a contract with them other than accepting their proposal. I'm gonna look it, I'll look it up, good question. I still think we could, I mean, we go sometimes weeks without talking
I know,
Um,
I'm not unhappy with this situation, I just want to know what it actually is.
yeah, no, I think it'd be good, so I actually have this grand plan, one of my many silly ideas, of posting along with our job descriptions on either the same page or a slightly related page. Basically our contracts or letters of engagement that are people who kind of serve a role an employee might have served, so accountant,
County.
treasurer, town council.
Right.
And then we could easily say, and we can find them with some ease today, but
Right,
we could easily say, all right, you know, what was our agreement with Collins Center about doing HR services, or what's our agreement with Harrington Heap about town council, or
Well, we can
Accounting
put that right on
treasurer.
the webpage for, there's nothing like on the web pages for town accountant or
right.
town treasurer.
Yeah,
We could build something right there.
well, oh,
To your
there's,
point,
so the reason I
Oh,
would
right on their individual, there's nothing for.
make
the
them a whole
town council,
page.
yeah.
we could, and something
could.
similar to that.
I'm not opposed to that, making them their own department. The only thing I really am opposed to is members of the public consulting town council, just
Yeah.
because we have a bad history of that, and
I was just gonna
it's not
say
like
that.
I wanna deprive people of their right to participate in the democracy, but the legal budgets,
Yeah.
which generally we try not to nickel and dime our legal budget.
Yeah,
And we're not
Well, out of
paying town
control.
council
Yeah.
to answer questions for the public.
yeah, it's the same thing with the county, it's just informational what it is, to your point, it's like
Right.
what these people are, what
And
the
here's the
company
contract.
is and all that, here's a contract.
You look
So that's-
concerned.
And-
One way to approach it.
Okay.
That's one
I
way
said
to
that to me
approach it.
last week. I must be frowning a lot back here.
Yeah, something to think about.
Whether to make them their own page or to make them just within the job descriptions, here's also the contracts or letters of engagement. Then we wouldn't have kind of these questions.
Or at least when we did, we know where to go to answer them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You can find.
No, it's a good question.
Yeah.
Alright, sorry, I'm going off
Okay,
track.
so at the end of the day, it sounds like the voting things on Chris's desk, town council is coming, Eric is coming. What else do we need to do to prepare? We're gonna earmark certain items.
Yeah.
Or put holds on them, as it were.
I do what you mean.
And
Well, I think for what we've, especially the big ticket items and the controversial ones, we've really discussed a lot.
Yeah.
So there might be that oddball question about a truck, why are we getting a truck, but I think I have a good sense of what's going on, and Jim will be there, I
Mhm.
presume, so.
did we make a decision about whether or not we wanted to hand out even a, like, are we concerned
A capital
didn't
plan.
update the capital
I was
plan?
thinking about that today, actually, and the only reason I didn't go forward with it is I don't know when it was last updated.
It hasn't
It's only a week, 10 days before
Yeah, right, I
before
know.
the annual town meeting,
It hasn't been
so.
updated since when?
well, I don't know
I
about
remember we
update,
were looking at it.
approve, we haven't done this fiscal year.
Right.
So, is it okay? I think in some ways, I would love to just say, here's our fleet of 5 plow trucks, and this is where we're replacing this one, and then these 2. Those are the simple ones.
I did
Then when
find,
you start talking about the roof and a bunch of other things.
yeah, I
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
find a couple of big spreadsheets that had all that stuff on it, so I think it's worthwhile looking at and saying, yes, this document is good for right now, and then we can turn it into a PDF and put it on the website, and maybe next year. really
It has a
and really-
date on it, yeah.
and really
get
think about,
updated.
like, how do we get it, how do we disseminate it to people?
I mean, I think it might be worth after town meeting, taking it up to actually have a careful look at it and make sure it's up to date, and then, like, I'll write an article and put it in the news
So-
and say, hey, just so everybody knows, we just recently updated this, it's
Yeah.
existed for years, now we put it on the website if you wanna go look at it.
So, remember, we got hung up somewhere, because,
We couldn't decide what should go on and what shouldn't.
yeah, I think
The
that,
big one.
I thought there should just be a limit of like $10,000 for,
I think you should
It's
treat
not
it,
a capital item,
you
is
should
that?
treat it like capital,
Yeah.
over a certain dollar value.
the difficult one is like radios can end up being X, Y, or Z, but you can buy 2 at a time, and it's $4,000, or you can replace them all, it's 12. That's the gray areas. The other gray area we ran into was being thoroughly exhaustive but consistent. So if you're gonna put town hall roof, you should put that roof and that roof and this roof. And if you're gonna put this boiler, you should put that boiler and this boiler and that boiler. And I think it's worth doing, it's just, it's a little different than just saying we have 3 police cruisers and one is up every 2 years. That's simple.
Right, and the boilers are hard because they last a lot longer and but they can also go unexpectedly, right? The fact that your boiler might, on average, last 20 years doesn't mean that your boiler won't last either only 5 or 28.
I think these days they're lasting less.
Oh, everything is.
One thing I always thought, if you could somehow put in there that, all right, so we're gonna buy this new truck, but the old one gets sold and we're gonna get, and let people know what we got, so it.
Well, we
sort of
are,
takes the-
we
Do
are,
let people know what we
doing-
got,
well, okay,
but
we do and don't. So what we have been doing in some of our town meeting articles, and we haven't always done it, but we were very consistent about doing it this year, is saying to trade in or sell this
Right.
vehicle.
Yeah.
And then it depends, usually we're getting the new vehicle anywhere from a few months to a few years after we actually voted on it. Then we get around to selling the
Selling it,
old
yeah.
one, and so now, a year to 2 or 3 years after you vote on it, you know that you got $40,000 back for that $550. It's hard to say,
To really feel it.
it's hard to say, well, that truck that we budgeted $200,000 for was really only 160 because you traded in for 40. When you take your own personal vehicle, you go to the dealership and they say, we'll give you 10,000 for that, and the 40,000 of the new vehicle becomes 30,000, that's very simple. This is like delayed.
Delay, yeah, the delay thing is.
it's a big delay, and there's no predicting what you'll get on municipal. Since I've been on the board, we've been really lucky and we've gotten good prices, but that's not always the case.
Well, we have good equipment because we keep trading it in.
And in this moment, prices are high for new things, so people pay more for old things.
One other tangent, and then I'm done. Remember when the insurance company said the library was actually valued higher and now the insurance was gonna cost more? What was the fallout?
I don't know, but I just came across that page yesterday, I think. And it was gonna go up like a huge amount.
When was that?
Huh?
When was it?
It was just a couple months
Recently.
ago, it was recently.
It was recent.
Was it a couple months ago?
Yeah,
I thought it was like 6 months ago.
okay, well, that
Well-
all depends on what you call couple, I'm sorry,
A
it
couple
was,
is 2.
it was within the last
Couple few.
year for sure,
Yeah, it was, because it was someplace on like, Missy this.
It was reasonably many months ago. It was the fall?
No, I don't think it was the fall. I
Do you
think-
wanna use
I
that
don't
for
know what I did with
homework?
that.
Because
I'll
then
look for that paper.
we had the same concern about what about all
You
of our
gonna
other
be there
buildings?
tomorrow night?
Is that finance committee?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because if I find it, I'll bring it.
I'm trying to be there, so he's not there, you can give it to me and
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
pass it along.
But then we had that concern about what about all of our other buildings?
But that one was just,
but their building's new, so.
you
But that
know,
was the weird part, it was
Yeah, but
new,
it's
so why did
Insurance
it
company
get
was
revalued?
it? That was the
Yeah.
mine stuff, wasn't it?
So whenever we sit down with Maya this year, we need to be really thorough and make sure they have all the buildings and vehicles correct. And other equipment that gets insured.
This is so weird, I searched on library insurance and the number of hits I just got is ridiculous.
Every time,
Okay.
every time I talk about the budget.
it seems to me, was it like $5,000 more or something? It was absolutely ridiculous.
It was a lot more.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be, but they're building something, I think that's what was driving
So
But they
I will look
knew-
for that.
it. I know.
The building's been built for years, how come they're just coming now and saying it's worth that much?
Because they don't always go around to things and assess them
Yeah.
immediately.
And they always had the plan, it was pretty much built to plan, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't a huge change order. Why was it ever that far off?
It wasn't that many change orders on it, so. Not that it, increased the value of the building.
I remember when you had a contract with the library before you were trustee, what were you doing, siding
Oh, I built the old office,
off the
that
back?
office on the back. Okay.
But I saw, I think a change order, cause you were doing like cedar shingles on the roof or something,
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Could have been,
it's in the archives.
You personally?
my company, no.
Mickey was a contractor.
I was
Yeah.
contracted.
Yeah.
My old life, yes.
And is that how you got introduced to the library?
No, I moved into town, I lived right next door to the library, I think I got introduced to it there.
But did you get involved in the trustees after you built the office off the back?
Yes, because your father didn't hire me to be a trustee, wangled me into that until, actually when I retired, after I retired.
I'm just looking at, I just looked at the wording, so it sounds like he put that purchase into his budget, but not that full amount. That's how I read that.
I don't know, we'll have to see what
Yeah.
Roger,
Just, so that second sentence, slightly higher than currently budgeted, means to me that Jim put the purchase of the compactor into his budget, but not that amount.
I don't know where you would put it in there because his budget changed so little.
transfer station.
Transfer
Oh,
station.
there was a big, the transfer station did have a big change this year.
Alright,
I'll ask him.
do you have any further updates?
Yeah, I just wanted to, there was a question that came to me about the mileage rate. And do we follow the federal mileage rate? Because I think some people have been using last year's versus this year's mileage sheet.
Well, Susan's our employee handbook.
I was looking-
The employee handbook says we follow IRS, right?
Is the employee handbook on the website?
I don't know, but I had one.
My recollection is we just follow IRS rate, so if IRS changed, we changed. I don't think we ever would have set our own rate, it's different than IRS.
Because it's 67 cents now, and I think they may be using 65. So.
I thought it was something 0.5.
I think it was 67.7 cents or something like that now. But they're using an older, I think they're using an older spreadsheet. But I was looking for the employee handbook on the website, and I couldn't find it.
It may not be on there, or it may be somewhere where, okay.
I looked under, there's actually a
sending it
page,
to you
there's
now.
actually a page of handbooks and policies.
If you have questions about the employee handbook, Susan is your person.
Okay, good. The other thing is that I had a conversation with a couple people from the Massachusetts Office of Disability,
Mhm.
because associated with the open space and recreation plan is also a ADA, what they call self-assessment, but it's really them coming in to do the assessment. So they're coming in to, this has to happen really quick, because it has to be done by June 30th.
Mhm.
So the gentleman, I believe, will be coming around next week maybe to go to all of the parks and recreation areas, as well as checking out, going to the library, town hall, highway garage, community center, and even the school to check it out. Because it's not necessarily about finding the negatives, but finding the things that we could do to help with being ADA compliant. And so that could help us get some grants through the Massachusetts Office of Disability to upgrade things. So the thing that they
Is that
need,
Evan George?
it was Kyle McIver. I don't think it was Kyle, but it was something McIver.
Okay.
I forget his name. But so what they need is they need a committee of between 3 and 5 people they'll meet with twice, maybe 3, he said, maybe. And so they'll go do their assessment, put some information together, put it in front of a committee, ask them what they think, then create a report. There'll be some public comment period, very short, and then sometime in June, they would put that report in front of the select board. So I need to find some people, I was thinking maybe your mother might be interested.
Yeah, she was the AD coordinator.
So it's something that's kind of happening really quick.
What about Don Trico, if he's available?
Yeah, oh, that's a good idea, okay.
What about try Bob Carlson, because he's technically our ADA coordinator
Oh,
now.
yeah, that's right. Give us number. And I
what-
was thinking of maybe asking, because we mentioned something to Catherine Roberts.
Yeah,
maybe
that
someone
would be
from
really
council.
good. Catherine or someone from Council on Aging at
Yeah.
least.
And so I asked, and he said, 3 to 5 people. was
Mickey
really-
Jervis.
No, she said, no.
So,
I had 3 appointments today, I had to cancel one tomorrow because I had conflicts. it's just.
Too much stuff, you're too busy.
Ridiculous.
So I'll reach out to some people.
Yeah.
and I'll
So-
put together.
You're gonna be needing to go into buildings and check them.
I'm sorry.
You said you're going to be going in with this guy and.
Well, I'm gonna let people know he's coming, because I actually told him that I need to figure out what the schedule is for the library.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
just let Mark know. and
Yep,
we'll-
yeah, because I told Jim,
This-
town hall's not a
Unread
problem, I have to talk to
personnel,
RJ.
I,
And then I
I
have to
think
find
that
a
when,
piece
I'm
for the
pretty
school,
sure that
so-
when I sent him is the one that's
I'll
got
let
like
everyone know.
open edits to
Yep.
fix the HR thing. But
Yeah.
whatever, everything else is right, so we'll
Um,
do that. That's
Let's
where-
see. I talked to Mary Cardy, that's how you say it, right? She's helping put together a job description for an office assistant.
Okay.
I have to send her, I didn't get a chance to send her some information, but I'll send it to her tomorrow. And she's gonna put that together, and then we'll bring that back, have a conversation, and then put it out to see if anybody wants a job.
Sounds good. And we had talked about 22.
22, yeah, 14 hours, so we can even pay that now, even, because that's
Yeah.
what we had planned.
Oh,
for
we
the
could
budget.
pay, right now we can pay so much,
Yeah.
because we only have a few years left, or a few months left in the fiscal
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Just completely kind of guessing here, but the big question for me is that 14 hours coming in one day and then nights, or is it 2 days?
Well,
Tuesday, Thursday?
that's what we're trying to figure out, we're gonna think, because we had a conversation about what the position is, and, some of it is, minute taking for the select board, that happens right now every week.
Mhm.
So maybe there's a way, if it's something that happens every week, it's easier to make it a much stabler schedule.
Well, I would think, but I guess my question is, are they coming in nights for planning board, select board, parks? Or do they just come in Tuesday and Thursday and work a full day each day?
So,
And if they
yeah,
do, they can still take meeting minutes, because like,
Videos.
we can
videos,
record it,
yeah.
videos, we can record.
or
it,
audio
yeah.
recordings, whichever
Yeah.
one or the other, but the bottom line is. they
The
can be
problem is, if they're gonna do minutes for select planning, parks, ZBA, Board of Health. then
Well, see,
there's
that was the
minutes.
thing that was the one thing I was trying to figure out, because I was trying to go through the town administrator job description.
Yeah.
And in the bottom of that actually has like a list of administrative jobs, and it only, from, like, as the agent or administrative staff, it's very limited to those, it's like the ZBA
Yeah.
and Board of Health.
Yeah.
And maybe something else, so that's what I was sort of limiting it to start. I think if there's a decision to start doing more, then that will be more hours, and we get into the whole issue of being more than 19 and a half hours.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but
Yeah.
I feel so comfortable going 18, because you could throw, then with 18,
Yeah.
you could do minutes and maybe get into some bills.
18 is actually a good time, because again, it's all about that average over 6 months.
Right.
Yeah.
The 500.
Well, if you did 18, if I were to hire someone at 18 for the town, I would just say 18 is the cap, and there's nothing in that.
18 hours.
Yeah. And there's nothing in that position that's urgent to the point of deserving overtime.
And, but didn't we already budget for 14?
Yes.
We did.
Good point.
Well,
I'm
I mean,
just
I
saying.
I know,
That
I was taking a shower the other day and I was thinking about it, like, kind of kicking myself, because 2 7-hour days is a lot different than 2 8-hour days and 2 hours on top of it.
I think we should figure it out, as time goes on.
Yeah.
If we need to,
Try 14 and do it.
try 14, see how it goes, see how that affects the budget, and see what's going on. And see if there's
Also,
more to do.
At least, someone approached me in the last week saying that, they thought that some people that might be willing to do minutes for senior write-off.
Yeah.
So if we did need that, like, I don't know if
Is
it's a
there a
good idea or a
specific-
bad one.
Are there people specifically?
Yes, but I don't wanna say it.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fair.
That's possible, yes.
But I'm just saying, if we ended up feeling like we needed more hours than we had budgeted, that would be an option.
I just think we should budget it, because that's a reliable way to have someone do it, is
I
paying
would
them.
agree.
Yeah. Paying them and giving them hours.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, well, once we get the office assistant's job description, we'll sit down and have another talk and go over it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And see what's there. The other thing is Mike Jermaine dropped off disclosures of,
Yeah, okay.
stuff. I don't know how you wanna sign that, what you wanna do. I found some stuff. Send
I,
out what your thoughts are.
it's too complicated to just do something simple. He's doing a conflict of interest disclosure because he lives on the lake.
Right.
And he's also on the group.
Yeah.
He's on the working
So
group.
I think everyone on Lake Garfield working group, maybe with one exception, lives on the lake. Let alone, my immediate family will be part of the tax district. There's a certain percentage, and I'm not sure what it is with state ethics law, about if you can't participate if you have an immediate financial interest in the matter reasonably foreseen. But if such a percentage of the town has an interest,
Then
then it's a generalized interest, just like the fact that, of anything.
So wait, this could be the third thing you can't have conversations about?
Third thing,
Oh,
the 18th.
This,
Well, yeah, the library,
Yeah.
the fire,
Oh, yeah.
Fire
Yes,
department,
that's
the
right.
let's see,
yeah.
yeah, this, I count five.
Oh,
Well, I gotta get your parents to move to Florida.
Well, it used to be community center, but it's not anymore.
And
Your
also,
mother is involved in, back in the community center again, isn't she?
what's that?
Your mother is involved in the community center again.
But
isn't she?
She's the president of the nonprofit, but she's not involved in the town.
We don't pay her.
Yes. Okay.
So, sorry,
That's okay.
where were we?
Talking about,
Oh, so Mike's thing.
yeah, Mike's thing.
Last time I talked to the state ethics commission about this, it's just very confusing, because like I said, if more than so many people are affected, then that just is what it is. And then the other thing at play is, if you talk about, especially if you talk about the tax district, it affects everyone in town, because either you're in it and you're paying more, or you're out of it and you're paying less.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you can only just go so far with the conflict of interest. I was saying to Mike, I said, I think it'd be different if there was a private lake that 4 people lived on.
Right, yeah.
There's hundreds
Big
of properties and deeded rights. So I just would like to take a little bit of time to maybe talk to state ethics, maybe talk to Donna and see how to move forward, because how are we gonna operate if people who live on or near the lake can't participate in matters about Lake Garfield?
Yeah.
So which matter is this that he's filling that out?
He's got
for?
Being on the Concom and Lake Garfield working group.
Oh, okay.
And the concern was being on both, which is completely valid. Garfield working group applies to Concom. My thought was just if Garfield working group applies to Concom, recuse yourself for that discussion.
Yeah.
Then he said, you got on with the attorney of the day, and they were like, oh, and you live on the lake? Don't even get started about being on both groups.
And like, I just wanna point out, like, we have a hard enough time getting anyone to serve at all, but I just wanna point out, who's gonna serve on the Lake Garfield working group that doesn't live on the lake? They're the ones with the most obvious interest in putting their energy into it. It's a ridiculous thing to say they can't.
Well, the point of the state law is that you don't participate in public matters that benefit you personally. But when they're a public good like the lake,
That's like saying you can't
And a working
participate on the
group.
roads because,
Yeah.
but it's a public good that serves everybody and we all benefit from the lake. They
That's what I
benefit a
should've
little
thought.
more directly,
I should have thought that everyone
benefits from the lake.
from that, and I
It
guess
just looks
it's
big, a
more
little
if it's
more.
a property value, but there's that one provision about a certain percentage, I think it's 25%, and we're really close to 25% of people living on the lake.
Or on my
Because-
lake, you know.
There's hundreds, I mean, there's
Or with
100,
deeded rights to it.
there's roughly 100 properties with deeded rights to Lake Garfield. There's 150 with deeded rights to a beach, to a lake in town, but about 50 of them are Buell or Stevens. So, I would sign off on Michael's forms or do something about them, but I just feel like this is a can of worms, and we need to handle it
Clear, yeah.
clearly, because then when you say, if Michael's doing it, should the other 3 or 4 members of the working group do it? What about me? What about everybody?
Yeah.
And the problem is, sometimes when you got talking to the ethics commission people, they just, obviously they're trying to protect you,
Right.
But
they're
it's
like,
cookie cutter.
but they can't comprehend, I think, things that are a little bit common sense, like, well, you know, it's not like we're trying to defend them, but it's like everyone can go to the beach. Everyone is gonna be affected one way or another if the tax district passes or not. Everyone uses the roads.
Yeah.
Not everyone uses the road. Not everyone is, I don't know.
Who doesn't use the roads?
I have two more things.
Yeah,
They use them, even if they don't drive, they use the roads because somebody's bringing in their food,
yeah, everyone
somebody's
uses.
bringing them to the doctor.
So, the state has offered cause, Susan brought it up today, and I actually got an email a while back, last week actually. The Massachusetts, this is about the procurement officer.
Yeah.
So the Massachusetts Inspector General's office is offering a program known as the OIG Academy.
Yeah.
Which you take classes and you can end up being certified as a Massachusetts Certified Public Purchasing Official.
Yeah.
They also have what do they call it? They call it the One Free Designee Pilot Program that they're doing. And so it's a pilot program they're doing that starts July, through this pilot program for fiscal year 24. So I just got this. And basically, we go in there and I can't do it. I can't, it's for actually, I can't fill myself out in it. A member of the, like the select board has.
We have to
do it.
appoint somebody.
You have to say, you have to
Send somebody,
designate
right,
me.
okay.
So there's a form online, I could send you the
Yeah.
link, and what happens is you essentially get put in a list, and if they say yes, you get it for free.
I don't care whether we pay or not, do it.
Okay.
Right,
I'll-
but
That's my
let's
call
go
too.
for free
But let's go for
Yeah.
free first, yeah.
And you send it to me and I'll
Yeah.
fill it out, and then
I'll send
if it's free, it's free, and if it's not,
We
if you
still,
wanna-
you should
it.
still
Oh,
do
yeah,
it.
I think it's
Yeah.
like $1,500.
It's,
Oh,
you should do it.
Yeah, so, I just wanted to say.
Is that G's high or G's low?
it's, she's like, we have a $5 million budget, and we always end up nickel and diming.
I know, right.
$1,000.
Is that the way it always works?
Meanwhile, we
So-
need to have a procurement officer.
So I'll
It's
take
not
care of it.
really an option.
I'll send you the link. And the last thing is I just found out today, and it's from Jim, is that the New Marlboro Road on the same stream that the Sandusfield culvert is on, there's a culvert there that is in sad shape. And so he's going to, sometime in the next couple of weeks, he's going to go reinforce it and fix it. I don't know exactly I was looking for a map, but I didn't look at a map.
The same river that Sansfield Road culvert goes up?
Yeah, so it goes down through and across the New Marlboro Road,
Does that
I
one
guess.
have water
I don't
in
think
it?
that one had.
The one in the other
It doesn't
road
have
did, but I
stream,
think
have a
this
stream in
one
it.
might. This one looks like it has
The
water on it.
Sansfield Road.
So the stream that the culvert is, that they're
Where's
replacing.
that? Bridge.
Road.
There's a full-on bridge over Ross and Brook.
So the culvert, there's a culvert. The culvert, this is how Jim explained it to me. The culvert that is being replaced on Sandusfield Road, there's a stream that also crosses
Yeah.
New Marlboro Road.
It's probably down by past Steve Moore's house.
And
Past Brookmead.
Down there.
No, like right past Steve Moore's house.
Oh,
I'll have to find out exactly where it is.
There's only 2 real water crossings on New Marlboro Road.
Yeah.
There's,
It's a culvert.
well, there's 3, because there's that one when you go down past Brookmead.
Mhm.
And then there's the bridge over
Right.
Ross and Brook, but that was just replaced. And then when you get to the town line, I think there's another one. But it must be the one down past,
Yeah, I'll get more
it's
specific.
like a quarter mile
Yeah,
under New Marlboro
Close,
Road.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
close down.
When you go down before you start going back
Okay.
up.
so he's gonna go down there in the next couple of weeks and do some maintenance on it to reinforce it and all that. And then he's gonna look into getting an engineer to come and do an actual assessment on it and see what the issue is and how it can be fixed. And hopefully we can get some grant money for it. So
Do you think it will not be within our budget of just,
that I'm
Our
not certain
normal
of.
budget?
That I'm not certain of. He's not certain.
Yeah.
He knows that he knows he's got a plan to go fix it and reinforce it with some concrete and structure and all that.
But probably he doesn't know because he doesn't know what it'll cost to fix it.
Cause he wants to do the no bottom, it's an old boiler. So he wants to get like a real culvert in there with, so it doesn't.
bottomless?
Bottomless, yeah,
Yeah.
bottomless, cause I guess as we said, it's just, he said we've got, anecdotally, he says there's a bunch of them around town where it's just an old boiler that they put underground. They're just starting to go.
Just cut the ends off.
Stuck it in. So I could find out the actual location of it, but he said it's on the same stream as the one that the Sandusfield Road is on.
Okay.
So, but that's, I don't know, I don't know exactly where it is. You knows he knows he's got a plan to go fix it and reinforce it and all that, and then he's gonna look into getting an engineer to come and do an actual assessment on it and see what the issue is and how it can be fixed. And hopefully we can get some grant money for it. So
Okay.
but that's That's it for my,
I'm so glad we had a special meeting just to do it.
I heard, chapter 90 is hard once you get engineered programs.
yeah.
So maybe it could go through chapter 90, but maybe we could use chapter 90 for things that are like crack sealing, that are like a no-brainer.
Right.
They're not a crazy recording.
Yeah, the crack sealing, was completed, but we have to go get for full transparency, we have to go make an adjustment to the dollar value. Cause it ended up being a little more. He actually had enough, they had enough leftover, material.
Yeah.
They did, but not only did they did the main road, they went up to where the beach is, because last year, I think he crack sealed it there. He went up there.
But last year, I was surprised when we did the 56,000 and then saw that all, because last year we approved like 30-something thousand for the RAP program.
Yeah.
And they made it from the center of town to the beach and back.
Yeah. So I don't know how
For
much,
30,000.
I don't know how much the
And then
overage.
this year well, we don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
So I got all the stuff, I hadn't had a chance to look at it, but he was able to do.
700 to the beach is 0.79 miles. Don't ask why I know that.
But he was able to do they had enough material left over. They were able to do, from the beach all the way to the Tyringham town line,
Oh, jeez.
and from Hoopie Road, the Tyringham Hoopie Road intersection up to where the pavement is. So they crack sealed all that.
Wow.
And they did it in like a week and a half or something like that. Week and 2 days.
Well, last year, we approved it like $30,000.
Yeah.
And they just did boom, boom.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said they did like a mile last year. This year
Not
they did.
even.
This year, I think, where they do 14 lane miles.
My recollection is that he was trialing it last year. He
Yeah.
didn't wanna do a lot last year because it was a different
He said that.
process.
Fog sealing, that was the fog sealing.
Yeah, he said it was a different material.
Right,
What
there
he
was the fog sealing and he didn't really
But
like it.
that wasn't fog sealing, they did crack sealing on Tyringham.
Oh,
last
okay.
year.
Yeah.
And it was crazy expensive, and I
Right.
remember being like, for $30,000,
That
they
was
did
all
make
they
the
did?
beach
Okay.
and back.
Yeah.
So, I wonder why this is more, but it's a lot more miles.
Yeah, it's a different material. It's
Okay.
totally different. It's a different material. They get more out of it.
It's gonna
Also,
rain and it's gonna dissolve.
yeah.
Yeah.
He also said that with this material, they put like a little bit of sand over the top of it to help with, keeping it down and all that. So
Right.
And they did town hall.
They did town hall too.
They really
Yeah.
did so much.
Wow.
So I haven't seen what the additional monies are, but,
Yeah.
I have the
Okay.
paperwork for it.
So crack sealing chapter 90 is gonna go up, we have a lot of chapter 90.
But yeah, the big question is if we're gonna think about getting an engineered study and then paying for the culvert, what else can we apply for? But you guys think about that, I'm sure.
We'll work on
What else?
So minutes,
So I know you guys sent the drafts, but you haven't had a chance to look at them.
No,
to review them.
so that's gonna be a meeting next week where we're just gonna do minutes.
And I haven't, in all honesty, got much involved in 4A yet, so.
Okay, so
Yeah,
do you think that you could this week do 4-8?
Yeah, I'll work on it.
Okay.
So you guys, Frank had 4.2, you did 4.9 and 16, I did 4.11. Are we
So, and then Frank's gonna do
4.2?
4-2, but I might check in and see where he's at, cause I might do 4-2. Hi, Nikki.
Can I just ask an unanticipated or public question, and then I
Yeah.
can go, you can do all your things?
Yeah.
So I don't know why, we didn't look over the budget so much, and I could ask this tomorrow night, but maybe you can answer it tonight. Why is the Park Commission lawn mowing tripled?
There was a accounting error going on for years, or reporting error, however you wanna put it down, where they were putting down lawn mowing as a general expense. And also the mowing did go up because of Gary O'Brien, but it didn't go up that much. So what you'll notice is, do you have the budget in front of you?
2 lines combined.
Two.
The money moved from one line to the other.
I'll pull it up. just so
Okay,
that
all
we-
right, I'll go look at it close to that.
So
And then did that go out to bid since it was over $10,000?
it did, to Gary O'Brien, which is a bummer it went out to bid because it actually just crazily increased the cost when it went out to bid.
So much so that we actually pondered whether it was worth doing it in-house and buying a mower.
Okay, I'm just gonna say we're mowing ourselves, right? Yeah.
I don't know,
This week is your
talk to Jim
turn.
about that.
No, we did ponder it, it was discussed, and in the end, we decided not to,
Yeah.
because of just, personnel
Deep
power,
quarters to mow the lawn.
personnel power plus the equipment cost.
Notice in the Parks Commission general line,
That was
They-
way down.
what's that?
That was way down, wasn't it?
That was way down. But also notice that, I think I kinda know it. I asked these same questions, but I didn't really understand until I think I get it now.
They had one line, they
No,
were,
but I think I get it. They were using spring and fall cleanup just for spring and fall cleanup. We changed it to park lawn maintenance. So all of the lawn maintenance that used to not be spring or fall cleanup was just in the general line.
Right, okay.
So we're
So the lawns,
moving them about.
since it's the same person doing that.
But if you'll notice, the total budget request is actually down 3%.
Is it okay? I just happened to notice that the day when I was.
yeah, it was the one line that went up.
Yeah.
So they.
And I go, wait, what, why did that?
We actually, I think there's several things on there where like lines were either combined or, like, we're trying to be good about
Yeah, some of those things.
clarity and, but then you get these weird ups and downs when you try to adjust everything.
I think there's a few I was looking through, there's a couple departments where I might ask the accountants to add some lines, so things are taken out of expense that are in other departments, like for example, telecommunications. It's little dollars, but it shows up they pay it with expense as opposed to a telecommunications line, which, it's just little things like that. So, I know Jim
And,
was-
being able to do it overall so that we know what we're paying with telecommunications for everyone,
Yeah.
it would be nice to be able to have that clarity.
So let's just touch back on minutes
Okay.
briefly. So
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
I'll
night.
see some of you tomorrow
as
night.
far as I know, there's 3 sets that haven't been drafted, and one today I'll do. I've been taking notes. Roger's gonna do 4-8, and Frank,
You did 4-9, Frank said he'd do 4-2, I did 4-11, that leaves 4-16.
And just,
I did
he just did that.
Oh, okay.
and I'll do 4-24,
Yeah.
24.
Oh
And
my God, you are
So-
a trooper.
So when you guys do that, right? We have to, I think it's, let's see, the best thing to do, what's the best thing to do?
So
track changes.
I know, so track changes, but, so,
the tricky thing is though, if one of us drafts them, even if we send them to Roger, we drafted it, not him.
But that's why we sent it before this meeting.
yeah,
Right,
So you
so
take,
we
you come back
technically
next
don't,
meeting.
yeah, we don't actually disseminate it until today. But now I sent it, right,
Mhm.
right, so I sent mine and he sent his
Yes.
to the board and to you.
right.
Yeah, and
But
so,
then
So,
when
so,
they-
so
yeah.
I have the original of each of your draft.
Right, and you know who it came from.
so
Right.
So
Don't
when
touch-
Justin,
don't worry about
yeah,
what's gonna happen is, I'm gonna look at Susan's.
Yep.
Make any changes, then then that will be the copy that we consider at next week's meeting.
Mhm.
Susan's gonna look at mine, make any changes, we'll consider
Yes.
that at next week's meeting.
Yes.
Frank's usually not too picky, depending on the subject.
great.
That's that.
Yep.
So
We can't do it that way.
next week, we're approving the 9th, the 11th, and the 16th period, those have to get approved.
Right.
And 4-2, 4-8, and 4-24 will be drafted.
Yes.
And then,
Okay.
actually, Roger, if you are able to get the 4-8s done by the end of this week,
Then we
then
can probably
we
do
can
that next week.
probably do the 4-8s. And what happens is you just send them out, we all can do track changes, and you figure out how to combine them.
Yes, and that's what I'm trying to figure out, is that like if you put your edits,
In track
is
changes.
track changes on Susan's.
Don't worry about who drafted it,
Yeah, I
right?
know, but I'm just trying to think about like which one I pull in to combine to show the differences to come up with.
So if I
That is
drafted
all.
it and he had comments on it, you just use his,
Yes,
because we know the original is mine, and
Right.
if Frank had, then you pull that into it.
right, that's what I was thinking, yeah. Because Frank is gonna be working off
Mine.
your original, so
Correct.
I'm gonna be pulling it, I think that
Yeah.
will work.
And when you just do compare.
Yep.
Combine.
Yep.
So it's a misnomer, because there's a compare and then there's a combine option, so we're not even using compare.
Right.
So we're just combining two documents. If they have, you
Yep.
already use track changes, it will,
It'll
just
show
show up the different track changes.
Yeah.
If they didn't use track changes, it will, it can work, but it's just easier if everyone just used track changes to begin with.
Okay.
So,
Otherwise, you do have to do compare.
Yeah.
Which you don't really wanna have to do, and and when I think I mentioned before, we tried for a while, and I still try to do it, if the big change, rather a small change, I'll do it as a comment, because otherwise, it just got so complicated with the interwoven, oh, it's a mess.
alright,
Okay,
we'll vote on my motion to adjourn,
yes.
and yes,
Second,
meeting
yes.
adjourned at 8:11
So
PM.
I'm wondering if the owl is too close to the laptop.